Okay, I'm just going to talk to you guys through how you can distill a bunch of information, some new content that you've learned, particularly about the dystopian genre. That's an example, how you can convert that into paragraphs and into your writing. And in order to do that, I thought I'd just go through a more generic approach to answering all questions in paragraph form that is similar structurally, I suppose, to some of the things that you've learned about paragraph writing in the past, but is a bit simpler, to be honest, than, teal or petal paragraphs that you're writing. This is really just tips for getting out your thoughts and starting to write, because I personally find that once I get the first sentence or two down, the words kind of flow afterwards, but it can be a bit daunting to just start writing if you know that you have to write a whole paragraph. So I'm going to talk you through a resource that I've made that hopefully you'll find helpful, and then you can apply that to a question about dystopian genre that I'm going to pose to you at the end. So this is it. I'm using The Lion King as an example, and my example question that I've got here are, what are the main personality traits that Simba shows in The Lion King? And this is all just to illustrate the point that the first step that you should do is really just to focus on getting many or multiple ideas down just in a bullet point list. You don't have to flesh them out at this stage. You just need to come up with multiple answers to that question, hopefully answers that are different aspects of the question. So let's say that is your question. What are the main personality traits that he shows? The first thing you can do is go, he's confident, he's mischievous, and he learns to be responsible at the end. So I've got 3 personality traits. You know that in English, we love threes, good things come in threes. So where possible, try and come up with 3 answers. It's not the end of the world if you come up with more, or if you only come up with 2, but certainly you need more than 1. It's very difficult to fill out a chunky paragraph with only 1 idea. Generally speaking, you want at least 2 little bits and pieces to talk about in your paragraph in order to fill it out with detail that seems adequate. So let's say we have this as our list here. The next step is showing you how you can flip the question that you're directly asked to create your first sentence. So you'll see here that what we're doing is essentially cutting and pasting parts of the question. So the question is, what are the main personality traits that Simba shows in The Lion King? We can get rid of the sentence stem, which in this case is what are. And then you have a choice. You can either say the main personality traits that Simba shows in The Lion King are, or you can say in The Lion King, the main personality traits that Simba shows are. I personally find that starting with the text can be a nicer way of phrasing the sentence. In The Lion King, the main personality traits that Simba shows are his. And then what we're doing here is we're listing each of these things. And before you know it, we've created one quite comprehensive sentence that alludes to all the things that we're going to talk about in detail. So you functionally created a thesis for your little paragraph with an overview of your topic sentences. So first step is just trying to get a couple of ideas down. Second step is flipping the question so that you can very easily write your first sentence. And then afterwards, we need to go through each list item one by one and give as many details as possible. So here's an example of that. We're going to start with item 1, which is he's confident. Blah. Simba shows his confidence in himself when he sings and speaks without fear about his desire to be king. His body language is happy and carefree, even though this is a big responsibility. So they're 2 kind of details about confidence, his confidence and how he demonstrates that. I'm then going to move on from confidence to his mischievous streak. But in order to do that, I'm going to use some connective words. And I'm also going to use synonyms for the words in the question as they come up. So I want to show at all times that I'm answering the question, because remember that the question uses this word shows. So it's what does he demonstrate? So in order to answer that, I'm going to need to talk about what he shows a lot, but I want to find other words for shows. So notice here, this is where we're up to. His body language is carefree. Connective word, furthermore. So this tells us we're moving on to point number 2. Simba displays. That's the synonym for show. So instead of saying Simba shows this, Simba also shows this, Simba also shows this, which sounds a bit mechanical and boring. We're using some synonyms. He displays his mischievous streak when he adventures beyond the boundary into the elephant graveyard, and when he speaks in funny but cheeky ways to his guardian Zazu. However, another connective word with a bit of a twist, it is Simba's learned sense of responsibility that makes him most likable to the audience. What's nice about this sentence is it's an added detail that we didn't particularly need. The question didn't ask what are his best qualities. It just says what are his most kind of shown qualities. But nevertheless, if you've got a detail like that, it's worth adding it in because it adds a bit of meat and weight to what you're saying. Through Simba's demonstrated, that's another synonym for shows. Through Simba's demonstrated responsibility by returning to Pride Rock, the audience sees, okay, he shows it, that he would sacrifice his own comfort, blah, 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 blah. And if you just notice, the length of this paragraph. Each one of those little sections was not particularly long, but the end result is, this is quite a lengthy response to the question, what are the main personality traits that Simba shows? So we've converted this list into this, and it's still quite formal. So you can try this method with any question, really. I've got one here that's a springboard for year 7. Here's one for year 8 geography. Here's one for music. And here is the one that I'd like you to focus on. There's kind of 2 questions here. It's twofold. You can kind of do it twice and then amalgamate the paragraphs together. That's what I'm thinking. So the first question is, why do authors utilize the dystopian genre? So in order to answer that, you might think, what do dystopian texts actually achieve? Like, why are they popular? What's distinctive about them? And then think, if you were an author, why would you write in that genre? What would you be hoping to achieve by writing in that genre? So you'd be coming up with 3 reasons why you think anyone writes in a dystopian genre. Hopefully that you're not just pulling them completely out of your head. There's, at least the implication of reasons as to why dystopia is important as a literary genre in the notes that you studied and in some of the discussion that we've had in class as well. So 3 reasons why. Just put them in a bullet point list. Flip that question. So you might start with, authors utilize the dystopian genre in order to blah, blah, blah. Signpost your 3 reasons, and then work through them systematically the way that we did before, using connective words, using synonyms for utilize. And so that's kind of your first task, is to answer this question in a paragraph. Then after you've done that, you can say, what therefore is Lois Lowry's purpose for writing The Giver? And this is where I want you to kind of bring this question into the same paragraph. Oops. So I don't want you to write a separate paragraph about this. Can I say that again? I don't want you to write a separate paragraph about this. I want you to bring elements of answering this question into this paragraph once you're done. So do paragraph 1 first, this one. And then think, how can I add information about specifically Lois Lowry and specifically The Giver into this? So it might be things like, for example, in The Giver, Lois Lowry utilizes this purpose when she blah. That's what I'm kind of getting at. So that's the task for today, basically. If you have any questions, you can email me and just do your best, have a crack at it. like I said, that's a scaffold for you to use, and we'll use it again in other classes.